another round of applause for our dance act? And hasn't the music been great? Great. Well, good afternoon again. I bring you greetings. My name is Dawn Kirk, and I'm here just to share a little bit about encouraging you guys as women. I am a wife number one to my husband for 22 years. Yes, and he is here supporting me. He's right there. Give a wave. I am a mom. I have two handsome boys, 10 and 14. I've also been in corporate America for 25 years. Yes, I started when I was 15, okay? And for the last 16 of those years, I've been a corporate executive as well. So I share that not to brag. I share that to say it's all possible to be a wife, to be a mom, and to have a career. So I also wanted to share with you, again, I have to give greetings to my church. So I'm a member of Eagles Nest Church out of Roswell, Georgia, where my pastor is Pastor Lee Jenkins. Awesome, awesome leader. And so I'm just excited to be with you guys here today. And again, all the credit, the things I just said to you guys, all's due to Jesus Christ, number one. And number two, I have to give my biggest supporter in the world, which is my husband. And he's not going to be expecting me to do this, but hot off the press, and I know Taffy Dollars talked about some gender roles. He was just voted Volunteer of the Year for our son's elementary school because he's been a stay-at-home dad for the last 8 years, which has allowed me to do the things that I've been able to do in my career. So you guys give it up to my husband for being able to do that. So I don't know about you guys, but I am just so excited to continue to see what God's going to do in our lives. And I know that you guys are here this weekend because you're excited about what God's going to do for you too, right? So I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want this to be energetic. This is a rally, right? So are you ready to unleash your radical destiny this weekend? I think you guys can do better than that. Are you ready to release your radical destiny this weekend? So I love the word radical because it's such a powerful word. It means favoring extreme changes in existing views, habits, conditions, and institutions. And I know that some of you, when you hear that, you say, well, gosh, something's about to happen to us. But what I want to say to you is I think unleashing your destiny is about what's going to happen in us this weekend. It's really about an inside-out job. It's not an outside-in job. Would you guys agree with that? So if you wait till all the external conditions change, you would agree that sometimes we won't be unleashing that destiny because the outside world's not going to change as quickly as God can change the inside of us. So our most powerful weapon in shaping our views and habits is our mind. This is where we can decide to be our best self at all times. So Romans 12:1-2 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And Gandhi said it this way, and I think this is powerful as well. It says, your beliefs become your thoughts. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. Your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. You guys see the connections in all of that? So to unleash your radical destiny and live the lives God's intended, I believe we have to do three things. One is renew our minds, rebuild our beliefs, and realign our values. You guys repeat after me. Renew, rebuild, and realign. So let's start with renewing our minds. I want you guys to think about your mind like your car. And I know a lot of y'all out there drove some really nice cars out here to this conference because we were driving through the parking lot. So what happens if you don't take care and do the routine maintenance on that car? What happens? It breaks down. What do you think happens to our mind when we neglect it and we don't take the time to renew? What do you think happens to our minds? Exactly the same thing. So when is the last time you performed routine maintenance on your mind? Yeah. So, there's so many things that compete for our share of mind. Every single day you're bombarded with messages on TV. We're bombarded with things on social media. We're bombarded with our computers and Facebook and you name it. And if we're not careful, we don't leave a whole lot of time for God. Would you agree? And God desires more of us than that. So what can we do to renew our minds and to make sure we're not fall prey to the distraction of this world? So number one, and this won't be new news, this is just reminders of what God requires of us. So I challenge each of us to continue to increase our time with the Lord to renew our minds. And I would liken that to, again, like the car example, your lifetime warranty. Number two, begin memorizing scriptures again. God says, put the words in your heart so that when difficult times come, you'll be able to recall those and fight against the enemy. So think about that as your car manual. When something goes wrong on your car, what's the first thing you do? You go in the glove compartment box and you do what? You pull out that manual, right? You do that before you call the mechanic because you don't want to pay no money, right? And so think about, the other thing is we got to learn to be still. Would you guys agree as women, we are just doing a whole lot. And it's not that it's a bad thing, but we sometimes need to sit and be still, regroup, recharge, because we can't give what we don't have. Would you agree? And some of us standing here today, and I'm sometimes included, we are running on empty, right? And that is not good for building God's kingdom. So be still, be quiet. Think about that as your GPS. So if you don't sit still and be quiet, then God cannot speak to you. God can't direct you and give you instruction for the day. And then lastly, we need to feed our mind with some positive affirmations. So think about all the negative things we hear from time to time. You just turn on the news, if you just turn on the radio, how many times is it negative stuff going on? Just about all the time, right? Well, research says for every negative message you receive in your mind, you need 7 positive responses to negate it. Did you guys know that? 7 responses to negate every one negative response. So let's just do a little example. So let's just say you hear a message, or maybe it's your own self-talk about I'm not worthy. Anybody ever said that to themselves? I'm not worthy. I don't deserve this. If you have, then you have to negate that with some positive responses. So I want us to practice a couple of these. So repeat after me. I am proud and happy to be a woman. Okay, now say it like y'all meant it. I am proud and happy to be a woman. Okay, that's a little better. I love myself and I accept myself the way that I am. Now, didn't that feel good? Didn't that feel good? So I encourage you to have those kind of statements readily available at your fingertips. Because at any given time during the day, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, self-doubt pops into your mind. Somebody says something crazy to you at work and takes you off your game. And you start wondering, am I good enough, right? Did I do my best? So keep those statements in front of you at all times and refresh your mind throughout the day. So when we renew our minds, this leads to rebuilding our beliefs. Many of us have false belief about ourselves. Some of us believe we're not worthy. Some of us believe we have no value. Some of us believe we have no voice. Some of us believe we can't have a career and have a family. Do we really believe we're the beautiful creatures that God created us to be? Do you guys believe that? Then we have to stop the limiting beliefs on ourselves. Would you agree? So I ran across this joke, and it listed the top 10 reasons God created Eve. And I'm only going to cut to the punchline. The number one reason was, it said, when God finished creating Adam, he stepped back, he scratched his head, and then he said, I can do better than that. Right? So we are better than that. So shame on us if we don't believe we have value in this world, right? Because God stepped back and said, I can do better than this. I need to create Adam a helper, and her name was Eve. And we're all descendants of that, so we need to take our rightful place in that. So I think that's enough said about our position in this world. And all we have to do is have a little faith. And he just said the size of a mustard seed. That's all that's required. So when we renew our minds and we rebuild our beliefs, lastly, we need to realign our core values. Now, core values are guiding principles that define who you are, what you stand for, and determines behaviors and actions. Our core values are our decision-making compass for life. They help us determine what to say yes to and what to say no to. So I'll tell you a quick story. I had my epiphany. I was in a training session back in 2006. And I was forced to sit down and define, who am I? What do I really stand for? And what are my core values? And I was really a little reluctant to do that because I figured once I wrote that down, I now have to be accountable to that, right? I can kind of get away with kind of doing my own thing. So I really sat there and started thinking about what was the most important things to me. What did I say I really valued? And the reality was I wasn't living according to those values. I said faith was first. I said my family was second. But when I took a look at how my life was being run, those weren't the two first things in my life. My career was. And it was a rude awakening for me and a really sad point that brought me to tears that says, wow, this is not where I want it to be. So I had to make some adjustments. And so I'm very clear on my values. My values are faith first, my family second, my health. Would you guys agree you can't do the Lord's work if you're not healthy? Leadership, learning, and inclusion. And I highly encourage you that if you have not sat down and said, who am I? What do I want to stand for? How will I make the big decisions in my life? I really, really, really encourage you to do that. Because there's going to be too many people telling you what they think you should do. And if you're not clear on who you are and what your purpose is in this life, you'll be pulled in a million different directions. You'll be doing tug of war all day long. So I encourage you, please, please, please do that. It's made such a big difference in my life. And I would tell you that because of those core values, my family, my husband, and I have made some big decisions. And I know Taffy's going to be talking about gender roles. And if we listen to the society, we would not have made some of these big decisions because the world will tell you the man goes to work every day, right? The woman stays at home and cooks and cleans and takes care of the kids. All these things that men and women do and don't do. But because of our core values and we found ourselves in a place where we did not like the way our life was going, we made some shifts. And so my husband and I sat down and we said, okay, what are we going to do? And what we determined was, he said, you know what? I said, what career are we going to follow? We were both professionals and both had careers. And my husband said, let's follow your career. And that was a tough decision because there were pros and cons to both of those. But we said, you know what? That probably makes the most sense. So again, 8 years ago, he stepped away from his professional career and came home to take care of the boys so that I could continue my career. And now you just heard me say he's volunteer of the year at the school. I had to be good and comfortable in my skin that I'm still a good mother, even if I can't be at the school every single time they call. I can't be at the Halloween parties and all that, but you know where I am? My priorities are when there's a performance with my kids, I'm there. When there's a parent-teacher conference, I'm there. So you have to pick your spots. I think so many times we are coerced into thinking we have to do it all to live up to the expectation that this world has set for us. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case. And hopefully that the example that I've shared with you in terms of my life will give you some encouragement that if you sit down and really, number one, renew your mind so that God can talk to you about what your specific purpose is. Number two, start to challenge some of those previous beliefs that you've had. And number three, really sit down and say, what are my core values? What am I going to stand on despite what's going on in this world? You too can unleash that destiny, that radical destiny you guys are going to be talking about all weekend long will be possible for you. Do you guys believe that? Do you believe that? Okay, so my challenge is to use those three things again. So repeat after me. Renew, rebuild, and realign.